Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about episode 3 of the Percy Jackson series. So I will start off by saying Percy's sass in this episode is so funny, but unfortunately I can't go over all of the iconic lines that were in this episode, but I was definitely laughing a lot. Well, let's get into it. Episode 3, we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. As usual, I will be comparing the book to the episode, and so at the beginning of this episode, it starts about in the middle of chapter 9 where we get to see Percy going to see the Oracle. And I have to say, I knew this was going to be a great episode because Percy goes to introduce himself to the Oracle and then immediately follows up with, "You're a Halloween decoration." Like, why introduce yourself if you think she's fake? And then she moves and he's like, "Okay, bye." Now, we don't get the Oracle introducing herself, but we do get Gabe giving Percy his quest. On a side note, I saw some people upset that it was Gabe, but that's what happens in the book. Instead of it being Gabe and his poker buddies, it's just Gabe. However, one thing I would like to point out is in the book, Chiron says the Oracle's words often have double meanings, but we don't get that in the show, and I feel like that is kind of important for Percy as he goes forward. So I just think that's something to keep in mind. Now, then we get into Percy choosing the company that will be going with him on this quest. In the book, for the last bit of chapter 9, we get Chiron talking to Percy about what the Oracle said, and then over the course of the conversation, Percy chooses Grover to go with him, and Chiron tells Percy that someone else volunteered, if Percy will accept their help. Of course, the person that volunteered in the book is Annabeth. However, I will say that I do like the ceremonial aspect that they added to that scene. I also have to say I love the way Percy says Annabeth before Chiron can even finish talking about Percy choosing somebody to go with him. And then Percy going to talk to Grover in the show after the ceremony, and Grover being like, "Okay, who'd you choose?" And Percy's like, "I chose you." And Grover's like, "No, seriously, like, who'd you choose?" Like, Grover thinks that Percy, maybe doesn't like him anymore, has like a problem with him given everything that's happened. And Percy goes, "I chose you." And then Grover, he follows it up with, "I'm going to pack the best snacks." And that is just so in character. Talk about perfect writing. And side note, Percy saying in the show, "And if the mission required someone to push me down a flight of stairs for it to succeed, you'd want someone who won't hesitate when they do it." I won't spoil anything, but that is actually really good foreshadowing. And then let's talk about Luke's gift. So, quick note to say that the design for the winged shoes is beautiful. It is so much better than what I was expecting. The shoelaces coming out to form the wing. When I first saw that in the trailer, I gasped. And I have to say, the design for these shoes is so much better than the shoes in the movies. And then there's Talia. Okay, can we talk about the fact that Talia caught so many strays in this episode? Percy, why did you have to say she met a pinecone's fate? Like, she died at 12, like, trying to protect her friends. And then Mrs. Dodds saying if Talia were better, there might not be a family of squirrels making her their home. Excuse you? I really thought Annabeth was about to beat somebody up in this episode because of what they were saying about Talia. And then we are on the bus. They are starting their quest, and poor Percy, he wants to be democratic, and Annabeth is like, "No, I'm in charge." The boy just wants a show of hands. And then you have Grover watching two of his best friends fight, and then what does he do? He just starts singing. And then, not to mention poor Percy, just the sad, our voting system is broken. He sounded so sad that about killed me. But then going into the actual bus ride, in the book, the bus is actively moving when they see Electo and the other Furies. Thankfully, in the show, they're sitting still. In the book, we also don't get Annabeth confronting Mrs. Dodds, Electo, before the fight breaks out. But let's just remember that Annabeth's fatal flaw is hubris, okay? And then Electo saying that Annabeth is probably the most formidable demigod alive. Yeah, I think that's about spot on. So, the fight scene isn't as long in the show as it is in the book, but I think they did a good job at showing that these aren't just kids. Like, these are demigods. They're not normal kids that you would just see walking down the street, even though they may look like it. And Annabeth killing one of the Furies with her dagger, maybe Percy should be nicer to her, I don't know. But what happens once they break the bus? Well, now they have to go on foot. So there is a difference in the conversations that we get in the woods between the book and the show, but they do confirm that Grover was Annabeth, Luke, and Talia's protector first, which I have to say, Percy just looks so hurt to know that. And Percy is told that they can't just call up Athena and ask for help. However, at this point, we still don't know that Athena and Poseidon don't like each other, despite being told in the book. I wouldn't say that that's an important point, but I do think it's relevant. So I'm curious to see what will happen. And then we have what we have all been waiting for, which is the Garden Gnome Emporium. Once again, we do have some differences between the book and the show, but the main main story is kept the same. So the three of them come across the Emporium, but I like that Annabeth and Grover kind of understand where they are from the very beginning. Annabeth's lines, Auntie M has a garden full of petrified stone folks. Anyone want to guess what M is short for? It makes total sense for her character. Now, it does take Percy a second to realize where they are based on his delayed reaction and just following Annabeth and Grover by looking away whenever Medusa comes out, but they still follow Medusa inside. And one small change is instead of it being Percy and Annabeth, like in the book, saying, oh look, food, it's Percy and Grover, which I think makes a little bit more sense. Now, Medusa saves the three of them from Alecto and even feeds them, which is very nice of her if you ask me. Now, one nice detail that they added was Percy says that he trusts Medusa based on the stories that his mom told him growing up. It does make me wonder what stories Sally told him, but we do get Medusa going into her story herself, despite Annabeth saying that she's lying. I truly believe that they did a wonderful job at explaining what happened to Medusa and hitting home the fact that Medusa used to worship Athena. There is some discourse about the true story of Medusa, but I will leave that to the people of Twitter because I will admit that I haven't looked into it in a while. And then we have the fight scene. So Annabeth taking off her cap and putting it on Medusa's head to give Percy a chance to kill Medusa is funny, but it works. It certainly helps keep the show family friendly for Disney, and then they just keep the hat on her until Percy ships her to Olympus. Which brings us to this. Best wishes. When I first saw that, I cackled, and Percy even gives Annabeth her hat back. How nice of him. And while that is the main plot points of the episode, I would like to talk about the trio for a second. First of all, how can Percy and Annabeth fight with each other while Grover is staring at the petrified face of his Uncle Ferdinand? Do they have no respect? Oh my god. Second, the conversation that the three of them have at the end of this episode, I think sets them up to work together more in the next episode. You have Annabeth questioning Percy about what Medusa said, then you have Percy questioning Annabeth about what Alecto said. And I think both of them realizing that they both had the opportunity to betray one another, but they didn't, really shows a lot for their characters. And I was waiting for Percy to tell the others what the Oracle actually said to him, but did he really have to follow it up with, and I couldn't imagine we'd ever be friends when referring to Annabeth? Like, you could just tell that he hurt her feelings. However, the revelation that both Percy and Annabeth resorted to killing as their answer to Medusa and Alecto's offering to help them is very in character, if you ask me. So with that being it for the big things in the episode, there are a few little things that I would like to point out, which is, so we do get a little bit of information about the fact that if Percy steps foot theoretically in the sky, Zeus will strike him down, which is a main point in the books. Secondly, in the show, Percy has kept Riptide since Chiron gave it to him at the museum, but in the book, Chiron gives it back to him right before the quest, saying it was something Poseidon gave him years ago. And then of course, for number 3, we have to talk about Hermes's appearance at the end of the episode. It was unexpected, but I loved the "you guys are not going to believe this" as a fun line to end on and something to maybe look forward to in the next episode. But that is all I have for episode 3. I will hopefully have the video for episode 4 up before too long, which I'm excited about because then we can talk about the St. Louis Arch. But I'll see you guys then. Bye.